Hi, I'm Rob Bonta, Attorney General of California. As California's Chief Law Enforcement Officer, my number one priority is improving and defending public safety. In order to do that, we have to build and maintain trust between our communities and law enforcement. That's something I'm deeply committed to. Under California Assembly Bill 1506, DOJ is required by law to serve as an independent statewide agency to investigate and review peace officer shootings that result in the death of an unarmed civilian. The law helps ensure there is a fair, thorough, and transparent process in place for handling these difficult incidents. By working cooperatively with California agencies, our offices can help generate trust. Trust that, in turn, helps create greater safety for our communities and officers. At DOJ, we'll continue to do our part to protect and secure the justice and safety that every Californian deserves. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Marsh, Chief of the Division of Law Enforcement here at the California Department of Justice. Our teams are on the ground every day working to protect the people of our state. As a part of the effort to support our office's work under AB 1506, we're hoping this video can answer frequently asked questions about our office's role and initial response to qualifying incidences. AB 1506 provides DOJ with an important tool to directly help build and maintain trust between law enforcement and the communities we serve by creating a mandate for an independent statewide agency to investigate and review officer-involved shootings resulting in the death of unarmed civilians across California. DOJ investigates and reviews all such incidences covered under AB 1506. Historically, these critical incidences in California had been primarily handled by local law enforcement agencies and the state's 58 district attorneys. For every qualifying event, DOJ, as soon as feasible and appropriate, disseminates relevant information and materials and ultimately makes public its determination regarding criminal liability for such incidences. Where criminal charges are not appropriate, DOJ prepares and makes public a written report communicating 4 key components: a statement of fact as revealed by the investigation, an analysis of those facts in light of applicable law, an explanation of why it was determined that criminal charges were not appropriate, and, where applicable, recommendations to modify policies and practices of involved law enforcement agencies. And now, on to our frequently asked questions. What counts as a qualifying event?
A qualifying event is an incident in which a California peace officer is involved in a shooting that results in the death of an unarmed civilian, a civilian who was not in possession of a deadly weapon. In officers, any California peace officer is defined under California Penal Code sections 830 to 832.19, which generally includes police officers and sheriff's deputies. A qualifying event requires the discharge of a firearm. This generally includes an officer's departmentally issued or personal handgun, rifle, or shotgun. Under AB 1506, a qualifying event would not include the deaths of unarmed citizens arising out of other encounters with officers, such as by use of less lethal devices or physical altercations. While most qualifying events involve officers who are on duty at the time of the incident, a qualifying event may also include an off-duty officer who was acting under the color of authority as an officer at the time of the incident. However, if the off-duty officer was not acting under color of authority, it would not qualify. Additionally, the law only applies to incidents that occurred after AB 1506 went into effect on July 1st, 2021. Additional information regarding definitions for qualifying events can be found online at oag.ca.gov/OIS-incidents.
What is the definition of an unarmed civilian?
An unarmed civilian is anyone who is not in possession of a deadly weapon. A civilian is in possession if the weapon is under the civilian's dominion and control at the time of the shooting. Possession usually requires that the weapon is available for use. Where a civilian attempts to take control of an officer's firearm, the civilian is not in possession until the officer loses control of the firearm. Examples of a deadly weapon include, but are not limited to, a firearm, switchblade knife, billy club, or brass knuckles. All firearms and BB or pellet guns that shoot metal projectiles, even if unloaded or inoperable, are deadly weapons. Objects that have a legitimate non-weapon purpose are considered deadly weapons only when, based on all the circumstances, they are actually being used in a manner likely to produce death or great bodily injury. Some examples of objects that have been considered a deadly weapon when used in that manner include knives, box cutters, screwdrivers, bottles, chains, rocks, razor blades, and iron bars. Replica firearms are not considered deadly weapons unless they are used in some particular manner likely to produce death or great bodily injury, for example, as a bludgeon. Vehicles can also be considered deadly weapons, but a vehicle in and of itself is not inherently a deadly weapon. A vehicle being driven at an officer or civilian with the apparent intent to cause death or serious bodily injury would be considered a deadly weapon. A vehicle that is not being driven in such a manner, for instance, if a vehicle is being used to escape, would not be considered a deadly weapon. When it comes to moving vehicles, making a determination about whether it qualifies as a deadly weapon can require extensive evaluation, and DOJ requests that law enforcement agencies notify our office for all moving vehicle incidents that result in the shooting death of an otherwise unarmed civilian by an officer.
Does the law only apply to state and local law enforcement? What about federal peace officers?
AB 1506 applies to California peace officers. Federal agents are not considered California peace officers. However, a California peace officer who is cross-designated as a federal agent is still a California peace officer. Where the other requirements are met, a shooting on federal property would still be investigated as a qualifying event if it involves a California peace officer. As standard practice, our office will continue to coordinate with other investigative authorities in such scenarios.
What should law enforcement do if they believe an incident might qualify for review?
DOJ generally relies on law enforcement agencies to report to our office when they believe an incident may qualify for review under AB 1506. If a law enforcement agency believes an incident may qualify, they should contact the Los Angeles Regional Criminal Information Clearinghouse, or LA Clear, regardless of the agency's geographical location. An LA Clear representative will provide the caller with contact information for DOJ's on-call personnel in the region. The reporting agency is then responsible for reaching out to the on-call personnel. Once the agency has connected with DOJ, a special agent supervisor will determine if further review is necessary as to whether the incident qualifies for an AB 1506 investigation based on a phone discussion with the law enforcement agency. If the special agent supervisor determines further review is necessary, the supervisor may conduct an in-person assessment or assign a special agent to respond to determine if an AB 1506 investigation is required. If so, the special agent in charge will be notified by the responding special agent supervisor, and additional resources will be deployed as needed. Once a qualifying incident is confirmed, the special agent supervisor will coordinate the responders either directly to the main scene, a secondary scene, the medical facility, or other locations as needed to conduct the respective investigative functions and ensure the efficient utilization of personnel and time. The specific details of the incident will dictate the appropriate allocation of departmental resources. The involved law enforcement agency should not stop its investigation and wait for the arrival of special agents. Once DOJ personnel arrive on scene, they will set up a briefing with the agency of jurisdiction and start the process for conducting a cooperative investigation. The department understands that pausing an investigation may not be appropriate or feasible, taking into consideration various factors, for example, potential loss of evidence, loss of witnesses, security of the scene, weather conditions, or possible civil unrest. That said, if a critical part of the investigation is about to occur and the deployed DOJ team is pending arrival on scene, the decision to pause or proceed with the investigation should be made through cooperative discussions between DOJ and the involved agency.
What happens if law enforcement agencies don't realize it may be a qualifying event until much later?
DOJ always stands ready to review additional information about an incident at any time if it is potentially relevant to the department's assessment as to whether an incident is a qualifying event. If it is not determined that a qualifying incident occurred until well after the initial investigation has concluded, special agents will work cooperatively with the involved agency to obtain and review all evidence, videos, statements, reports, and anything relating to the incident to evaluate the investigation in its entirety and proceed with the investigation as needed. Agents will ensure the investigation was conducted comprehensively, thoroughly, accurately, and in a manner that minimizes bias or a conflict of interest.
Will DOJ handle the investigation into any potential underlying crimes?
The investigation of any underlying crime will remain with the agency of jurisdiction. As an example, if a police department responds to a robbery in progress at a local convenience store and one of the officers shoots an unarmed civilian that results in that civilian's death, the local agency will handle the robbery investigation, while DOJ personnel will handle the officer-involved shooting incident. DOJ recognizes that there may be overlap in some cases where the underlying crime and the officer-involved shooting are so closely linked that they cannot be separated.
What office is the primary point of contact for the decedent's family?
DOJ operates a victim services unit known as VSU within the Office of Community Awareness, Response, and Engagement. VSU has established protocols and trained advocates who act as family liaisons and provide support, information, resources, and assistance to a decedent's family at every stage of the investigative process. VSU family liaisons provide information to the decedent's family about their rights and how to seek assistance from other state agencies and local community-based organizations. Within 48 hours of receiving the decedent's family's contact information, a VSU family liaison will take the steps to provide emotional support, orientation to the criminal justice system, information on the status of the investigation, crisis intervention, and other services to the decedent's family based on their specific needs.
What office is the primary point of contact for media communications? What about the release of video footage or personnel records?
Media inquiries regarding the officer-involved shooting investigation should be referred to DOJ's press office. Early on in the investigation, the department's press office will connect with the involved agency's public information officer to coordinate any press interactions. DOJ requests that any media releases by the agency of jurisdiction be discussed with the department's special agents prior to release. The purpose of this collaboration is to minimize any negative impacts to the criminal investigation that may potentially result. However, consistent with any existing procedures or community expectations, involved agencies are encouraged to provide general information regarding the incident in its immediate aftermath, as well as ensure that the release of video footage is in line with the requirements of AB 748.
What does DOJ Bureau of Forensic Services do when responding to a qualifying event?
The Bureau of Forensic Services, known as BFS, is the scientific arm of DOJ. The Bureau is a full-service accredited forensic laboratory system consisting of 10 regional laboratories and specialized programs, including the statewide DNA Data Bank program. Our forensic scientists provide field and laboratory support to DOJ's Police Shooting Investigation Team by responding to qualifying events to assist with scene evaluation, evidence documentation and processing, and analysis of evidence, including firearms, DNA, digital evidence, and latent prints. Additional information regarding BFS is available online at oag.ca.gov/BFS.
Thank you for taking the time to learn about the work we lead at DOJ to build trust between communities and law enforcement. DOJ remains committed to conducting fair, thorough, and independent investigations into police shootings that result in the death of unarmed civilians in California. Making sure the public and law enforcement agencies understand our role and have clear information about the process is a critical part of ensuring the effectiveness of our work under the law. For more information, please visit oag.ca.gov/OIS-incidents. Thank you.